Hello everyone, welcome to Curious Life. Today I really need to get a handle on my planning and organisation because I've been struggling a bit recently with keeping on top of things. So today I'm just going to have a cosy day at home and I thought you could join me for a day of planning October and getting back on top of things. I will be updating and sorting out my index card planning box and taking a look at my FlyLady control journal to help me. But in case we haven't met yet, I'm Issa and I make intentional homemaking videos with my wife Blaze. Later in the video I'm going to be talking a little bit about how I deal with and plan out my monthly chores as well as my day-to-day planning. But first I need to get my last few morning chores done and get going with the video. So today is one of those days where it really feels like autumn is settling in. It's been raining for a few days now and you can feel that chill in the air, especially in the mornings. I love this time of year, partly because there is something about it that really makes me feel just more inwardly focused, both on myself but on the home as well. We naturally spend more time inside, which means it becomes a little bit more important to keep up with my routines and for us to have a cosy environment to live in. In comparison to that, it's also a time where things seem to be starting to get a little bit busier. After the sunny days of summer are over, we start to look ahead to the holiday season and planning for that. We also have a lot of family celebrations during these months, and that has to be taken into account too. So planning and getting back on top of things just feels like it might be a good thing to do. So this is my index card box. It has broken, so I do need a new solution for my box. This is actually my second one of the same brand, and they've both broke in really quite a short amount of time. So I do need to look into doing something new for this. Maybe I'll treat myself to something really pretty for the new year. But right now, this one will be fine. We have actually tried to glue it and fix it, but it just keeps breaking. So if you're used to either the sidetracked home executive method, which this index card system is based on, then you'll notice that mine is set up a little differently. And that's because I've mixed the FlyLady cleaning system and the sidetracked home executive method into a sort of hybrid system that works a little better for me. I go into that in more detail in a video which I'll link below if you are interested in hearing more about why and how I've done that. But a brief explanation is that instead of setting up my index card box for an entire month, with every single day having a separate divided section and dividing the chores amongst those, I've set up my dividers in a different way that reflects the FlyLady system instead. So I have dividers for days of the week, just only 1 week, and then I have a set of dividers for zone cleaning, and then a set of month dividers for any extra things or more sporadic things that need doing, so that's just January through to December. And then I've also got a divider at the back here that's just labelled done, and I'll get into what that is in a minute. But the first thing I need to do is continue to take out all of the cards that need organising for the month. I found that this method of organising my index card box is much easier to keep track of, and there's a lot less moving cards around the box. Most of them stay in their divided section at all times. So now I have my cards that need filing out of the box, then I'm going to split them up into weekly, monthly tasks, and I also have a pile of chores for Blaze to do, because there are some cards that she takes care of, and what we do with those is that we give them to her at the beginning of the month, and then she just decides when she's doing them and writes that in her own personal planner, and then she gives the cards back to me, and I file them for the next month, or the next time she needs to do those tasks again. And you might notice that there aren't actually a whole lot of cards here, and that's because, as I said, most of my tasks are recurring and stay where they are in their box. I'll do a little flick through to show you what I mean. So here we have my days of the week cards, and if we go to Tuesday as a good example, because that's a zone cleaning day for me, I tend to do my zone clean all on one day rather than split them out over the week, because I found that works better for me. If you don't know what a zone clean is, it's a FlyLady system where you split your house into 5 zones and you focus on one zone per week every month. so that your house is effectively getting a whole deep clean every month. But flicking through these cards, you'll see that I have one card for my morning routine, one for my afternoon routine, and one for my evening routine. And then I have one to remind me that it is zone cleaning day, and the cards shows the different zones so that I can work out what zone I'm supposed to be doing. So these cards stay the same every single week for the most part. If anything is different for that week, I will move them around and do my zone clean on a different day, but most of the time they stay in the same place in the box at all times. I've also grouped my routines together, so for example, all of my morning routine is on one card, which I do rather than having a card for every single task in the routine. That's just because I find it less overwhelming this way, and I tend to do all my routine tasks all at the same time, so having one card for one routine just makes it a little easier to follow. Then I also have an extra card in here, which is to change the bedding, and this one tends to stay here because this is the day that I do that too. And then the same applies for all of the days. I have a card for each routine in every day, and then I also have any extra cards that are my FlyLady daily focus, which is when you have a task that gets done each day of the week, and that task always stays the same unless you need to change it for any one-off reasons. Next, let's have a quick look at the zones. The same basically applies. These cards stay here unless it's the week I'm doing that zone, in which I'll move the cards to my zone cleaning day so that it's there when it's ready. So I'm going to have a quick look through my zone cards, and then I'll move the tasks I want to complete this month to Tuesday so that it's ready for me for next week. I've also set up my zones a little differently, with week 1 not being a room, but instead of being a catch-all week for doing all of the monthly and sporadic tasks. I have had a couple of people ask me how I deal with this, so I am planning on showing you in next week's video what my Zone 1 clean looks like. So make sure you subscribe and do all of the YouTubey things to get a notification for that if you are interested in hearing more about how I've set up my zones a little bit differently. So that done, next I take a look at my monthly section and pull out anything that needs sorting. This I do on a weekly basis because I only have the one weekly section at the front and not a section for every day of the month. I just find it hard to keep track of an entire month in one go. This just works for me a little bit better. And then at the end of each week, I just look at the current month's divided section and pull out any tasks and add them to the right day for the following week. So that's a lot of the card organisation done, but we are not completely done yet. I also need to check our FlyLady control journal because yes, we do still have one, even though this is more of a long-term reference planner than a weekly or daily planner. But there is still some planning and organisation in there, so I just want to do a quick check. But first, it has actually stopped raining, so I'm going to take a quick break to take Cora out for a walk because we didn't go first thing because of just how hard it was raining this morning. But then I'll come back and finish the planning. I have my cup of tea. This one is a blueberry and raspberry tea because I'm trying to keep my caffeine to 1 cup of coffee in the morning, but I am now ready to continue planning. So I need to grab my FlyLady control journal and also my personal planner, which is where I keep all of my personal organisation, my uni stuff and YouTube schedules. So if there's anything in there that's relevant, I'll write a card and pop it into the box. I have a few uni lectures and things that I'll need to plan around, so I'm going to write cards for those, and also know that Blaze is going to be going into the office for some days. She works from home most of the time, so I find it easy to forget when she's going in, so I find it really handy to have it written down. But there isn't a huge amount to worry about this month, but there are a few extra cards to write and plan. So then the last thing I need to do is file any cards that haven't been filed yet. If there are things that need to be done or are happening within the next week, I'll file it in the relevant day. If it's beyond that, I'll file it back in October's divided section so that it's there for when I do my weekly plan at the end of the week. So I also said I'd talk about what this done section is at the back for. This is actually a new section for me, and it's as simple as it sounds. For cards that don't have an obvious place because they're one-off tasks or only need doing about once a month or every now and then, I'll pop them into this section when the task is done for the month, so that when it comes to next month's planning, I can just grab them back out and refile them for November. I'm hoping this will streamline my process a little and make it easier to plan in the future. I am always looking for new ways to plan or be a little bit more efficient, so do let me know if you have any ideas or if you want to share your planning system with me. So we aren't quite done yet, even though that's my index card box done. I also want to do a little bit of meal planning, and I know it might seem like I have a lot of planners. Well, that's because I do. Maybe closer to New Year, I'll go through all of my planning system in a little bit more detail and show you what all of the different planners do and why I have different ones. But right now, I also do have one that's specifically for meal planning. This one's actually pretty new, and I just saw it in a shop and I was like, I never have the right pages printed for my planner for meal planning. So whenever I was writing out my meal plans and shopping lists, they just ended up on scraps of paper and I kept losing them. So I figured this would help, and it has so far. It's just a basic meal prep planner, and it has a tear-off shopping list to take with me, which is pretty handy. I try and plan at least 2 weeks ahead, but it's also something I struggle with because I actually really don't like meal planning. I'm not entirely sure why, but it's just something that completely turns my brain off. But I do recognise that having a plan is really helpful, so I am making an effort to do it. Anyway, that's my planning setup complete for the next month. I am going to be refining this system and working on it, so expect more videos every now and then on this. So let me know if there's anything you'd like me to explain in more detail, or if you have any questions, and I'll answer them in later videos. But thank you so much for watching. I'm going to get on with the rest of my day, which is just a little bit of afternoon routine and then getting dinner ready. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will speak to you again next week.